Hey up everybody, Magpie Gaming here. I hope you're all doing well. So we did recently finally get the podcast from Battlestate Games that featured, I think there was 4 streamers on there altogether. And it gave us quite a bit of information on where the game is going and what we can expect in the coming months and certainly early into next year. There was a lot of information in it, so I'm going to try and cram it in as much as I can. I'm going to try and make this video as short as I can because I know these ones can go on quite a while. In the background you'll see some of the leaks and pictures of what was revealed in the podcast as well. There's some new gear in there, some new weapons. There's some of them that are rendered, some of them still the wire mesh models, and there's a couple of pictures of the Woods expansion on there as well, so you can get an idea of what is going to be coming in the coming months. Now, in the beginning of the podcast, Nikita spoke quite a lot about the next patch, which is of course patch 12.9. This will hopefully be ready by the end of the year. He said they're trying to crunch it a little bit so that they can get it done for the end of the year. He wants to try and give his team a bit of a break into the early new year, so he's hoping that they can get this done and out and it won't cause too many issues. As we all know, every update that comes out for the game, it breaks something. He's hoping that that's not the case. 12.8 didn't seem to be too bad, although it does seem to have broken the matchmaking feature, but that is being currently worked on. So he says that there's quite a lot of issues that they've had this year. The development of the game is obviously being set back because of coronavirus and the pandemic, and the fact that they're having to work from home. The fact that their whole team is still working from home has seriously slowed things down. As you will have noticed with patch 12.8, that was very late coming in, but they're hoping to get 12.9 out on time. He says that they are looking to work on late spawns within the game. There is a new system that they are currently building. This will be implemented in 12.9, so basically everybody will load into a raid at the same time. There'll be none of this loading in and wondering how people have already got to certain locations. Basically what's going to happen is if you are on a slow PC or you are loading into the game slowly for some reason, you will be kicked from that raid. So if you have, let's say it's a 12-player raid and 11 of you are using SSDs and one of you's on a mechanical drive, you're probably going to get kicked out. So it's going to annoy some people, but I think it's a feature that needs to be implemented just to make sure that every raid starts off in a fair way. He also says that there's a complete rework of some of the network infrastructure for the game as well. That's going to be included in with 12.9. Didn't really go into too much detail about it. I think it's all technical stuff that we don't really need to know about, but it's stuff that goes on behind the scenes that they're currently working on just to make the game a little bit smoother. He says that there will be new weapons and gear in this. Now, I didn't hear it in the podcast, but I've watched Pastili's breakdown and he said that the Vector will be included with 12.9, so we'll have to see if that comes to light. Also, face customization will be added in as well, and apparently with the face customization you'll be able to customize the voice. You'll still only be able to pick from the voices that we currently have, but you'll be able to change it up, I think, a lot more on the fly than we currently can. 12.9 will of course include the Woods expansion. Now, I did watch the entire podcast and Nikita goes on to say that Woods is 2 to 2.5 times larger, but he doesn't actually say that the map's actually getting bigger. It just seems to be that there's going to be more discoverable locations within the current map size, so it is adding kind of more places to look, more places to discover. I don't actually think maps as its footprint is going to get bigger, but there are going to be more places and more locations to look at. You'll see through the screenshots rolling in the background that there is a new Emacom base which is being placed on the hillside on the left hand side of the map. This is quite a sparse area, so this breaks up that area right now. Depending on how you play Woods will depend on whether you like this being placed there. I know a lot of people like to snipe through these fields and that is going to kind of stop you doing that to a certain degree. Now, he hasn't said where the spawns are going to be. There are going to be new spawns added and I think there might be new extracts added as well. Whether or not Stearman is moved over to this Emacom base, I'm not too sure. I think they might keep him at the lumberyard. That seems to be his spiritual home at the moment. But yeah, this Woods expansion is looking good. He said that it's ties in with a complete overhaul of the map. Doesn't go into too many details about what that overhaul is, but it seems to be that they've tried to tighten up this map and make it a very, very optimized map. I've got to say that I've always found Woods pretty much optimized anyway. Given the amount of foliage that you have on there, you'd expect it to be one of the least, best performing maps, but it's always been a good performer for me, but that's just my experience. It might be completely different for you. He also says that the player count will be upped as well because of the amount of areas that you'll be able to discover discover and go to. And when he was chatting to some of the streamers that he had on, he said that you will be able to get, well, he didn't specifically say that you'd be able to get up onto the sniper rock where you have the sniper. Obviously you can jump and get up there in a certain fashion, but they kind of assumed that you will be able to go up there quite easily now and be able to snipe from there across the entire map. Whether or not that was true or not, because Nikita didn't actually confirm it himself, it kind of just seemed like the streamers confirmed that for him, but whether that's the case or not, I'm not too sure. The issue of VoIP was brought up as well by one of the streamers that was on there. He spoke about whether it's going to be added to the game. Again, Nikita kind of looks a little bit forlorn with the talk of VoIP. It seems to be brought up in every podcast. He said that it will be eventually added into the test servers to see how it performs in there. I don't really think that he wants to bring it into the game fully. I think there might be certain elements of the game where VoIP will be included, but I get the feeling that he doesn't really want it in the game. But he said they will test it and see how it goes. If it goes well in the test servers and it seems like it's a feature that's going to enrich the game rather than break the immersion of the game, then it will be added into the game at some point. He then goes on to talk about Streets of Tarkov. There was quite a lot of information on this. He said that they brought new level designers and programmers in to help with this location. He said that they were brought in back in March and they're still heavily invested in working on this location. We aren't going to see it until sometime into the new year, but he says it is going to be the biggest map in terms of footprint scale. It is going to be absolutely huge. He says you will get lost on this map. He says some of the buildings, even what look like the smaller buildings, you're going to be able to go into pretty much every room, so there's going to be a lot of areas to go into and explore. He says that they are going to slightly tail back some of the detail in the map because he's worried about the optimization of it, but he also goes on to say that some maps just aren't going to be optimized for everybody. It's going to depend on the kind of rig that you're running, the kind of equipment that you have. He says that, you know, they optimize the best that they can, but at some point there will be certain maps that you just won't get great gameplay out of with Escape from Tarkov. You know, it was kind of one of these things of we are doing the best that we can, but you're going to have to cut us some slack sort of thing. He says that Streets of Tarkov will have the largest player base of any of the maps in the game and also will have one of the longest raid times as well. He says that this will eventually be the only way that you'll be able to launch into the labs map. He does say that they're looking at adding entrances into labs in other maps as well, such as Factory and Interchange, but he says initially Streets of Tarkov will be the only way that you can enter into labs, so it's kind of a raid within a raid. Now that poses the question of, if you go into Streets of Tarkov and then enter the labs map, what do you do with the loot that you manage to get out of labs? Now they're looking at ways to extract your loot, so there's going to be things like car extracts maybe, where you'll just be able to secrete your loot into them but not necessarily extract from the Streets of Tarkov map. They may be looking at manhole covers where you'll be able to drop loot into them as well. So it's a little bit of a system like what you have in The Division, where you're able to extract stuff via a helicopter. Now we're not going to get a helicopter in Escape from Tarkov, but there will be ways to extract your loot so that you don't then have to come out of one raid and fight your way through another to get out of it. They also spoke about when you exit labs back into Streets of Tarkov, will you be going back into the original raid that you would be? It's probably not viable to be able to do that. Obviously, if your raid time for Streets of Tarkov is, let's say, an hour and a half, you spend an hour and a half in labs, you're not going to be coming back out into the same raid. You will probably be added into maybe another one. So there's the potential to maybe camp extracts from labs to maybe get hold of people and take their loot before they're able to extract that loot. So I think there's a lot of things that they want to do with Streets of Tarkov and labs. Nikita definitely has a lot of ideas for this, but it's sort of, they're kind of just plodding along with it and trying to see what works and what doesn't. But I'm definitely looking forward to Streets of Tarkov. It is looking amazing at the moment. They do say that it will have its own boss as well. This guy will be holed up in a fortified car dealership and he's going to have 8 to 10 guards with him, so he's going to be quite a challenge to take on, so I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. The question of cheaters was brought up again, as it is with every podcast just recently. Nikita says that there are less cheaters on the game at the moment. This isn't due to the player base going down. He says that they are basically just starting to get a little bit more on top of the cheaters at the moment. He said there is so much going on in the background between them and BattlEye in terms of countering the cheaters. I think in some ways they're sort of winning the battle, but that will only last so long. The cheaters will definitely flood back in at some point when they find another way to exploit the game. But for now, they seem to be winning a little bit. He says you will still encounter cheaters, but there will be less of them at the moment. He says that the report system is working quite well. They're managing to catch a lot of cheaters through that. He does say that if you persistently spamming the report system, that they will sort of stop listening to you and they will start to ignore your reports. Doesn't say how long that lasts, but obviously if you're abusing it, then just simply not going to listen to you. And he does reveal that at any one time there is up to 100,000 players playing Escape from Tarkov. Now, usually and historically, Battlestate are very, very keen to keep those numbers to themselves. This is the first time I've ever heard Nikita say, you know, this is how many players that we have online at any one time. 100,000 players is a pretty decent amount for this game. So yeah, there was a lot of information revealed in this podcast. I would say if you want to get, you know, the very, very juicy bits and you want to hear every little detail of it, then you simply have to go and watch the podcast. Be warned, it is 2 hours long. It can be a little bit hard going sometimes. But yeah, you get a lot of information out of them, but I've just tried to crunch in the juicy bits the best that I can for you guys. Hugely looking forward to Streets of Tarkov though. I'm looking forward to the Woods expansion to see how that changes up Woods. I think some people won't like the changes. I think some people like Woods just the way it is. So a complete reworking of the map might put some people off, but we'll just have to wait and see when it comes out. Hopefully we will have 12.9 by the end of the year. He says that they're crunching to get that done. Will that happen? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It is literally 30 days away from now, so we will see what happens when that eventually comes to pass. But yeah, the game is looking in a good state. It's looking like there's some good stuff coming. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting back into Escape from Tarkov. I haven't had too much game time in it recently. Obviously there's Cyberpunk coming out soon, so I will be hitting that a little bit, but Streets of Tarkov Escape from Tarkov is always going to be my go-to game, I think, for the foreseeable future. And with that said, that is it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. As always, thank you very much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.